everybody. This is Molly McCord, and welcome to my podcast. I'm doing a new special series for you that involves free chapters from a book that was collectively written by 24 women. The book is called Heroine Soul Stories, and it is a collection of soul growth stories of women's deep process of transformation, loss, endings, healings, and how she moved through it, how she grew, how she healed herself, what she learned. And we compiled this book to support more people on their process, on their journey. And there's so many topics, so many stories in here that are so relatable, everything from divorce, friendships ending, questioning your life path, becoming a mom, losing your mom, very relatable, down-to-earth stories, but we have added in a spiritual component to understand the bigger picture. So what I wanted to do for you is read to you the introduction of this book as well as a chapter. And the intention of this is to remind you you're not alone. Remind you that there are millions of people on the planet who have probably been through the same thing that you have. And I just want to create a web of connection and understanding that even something that you're privately dealing with, millions of others have dealt with it too. So it's my intention to read to you these chapters. I'm going to be sharing a few chapters from the book. And if you're interested, if you want to check out more of the stories, you can find this book on Amazon or at modernheroinesoulstories.com. Very important to note that all royalties from this book are being donated to Women for Women International. And that's how we create more healing in the world, is that we pay it forward, and the royalties then support an organization that's doing really great, substantial work in the world. And their work is supporting more women, communities, and families with their soul growth. So that's what we wanted to do. And without further delay, I'm going to read to you the introduction to the book and then one chapter. So here we go. As she leaned over to inhale a blossoming young flower, Persephone felt a quiet inner joy as the expansive valley around her burst with colors. The morning air was young and clear as she selectively picked the white narcissus, a springtime bloom with tall, thin stems and skinny petals. She stuck one floret behind her right ear, a stark contrast of light against her long mane of dark, silky hair. Her navy blue dress bellowed in the gentle breeze. Her mind was focused on the simple task at hand. The sun's marigold rays grew wider, yet she was in no rush as her wicker basket grew heavier in bounty. She was enjoying a time of tranquility and earthly fertility. Persephone was so consumed with her morning ritual and the peace of the land that she had no idea something darker was lurking right under her bare feet, literally. Lo and behold, our fair maiden was quickly surrounded by an unexpected darkness in the form of a grumpy, hard fellow named Hades, the lord of the underworld. He was enraptured with her beauty, softness, and charms. He wanted to possess her sweetness and light as his own. When Hades saw Persephone alone in the field on this springtime morn, he didn't exactly pause to thoughtfully consider whether his next actions were a good choice, or what the long-term consequence may be, or the moral implications of kidnapping someone against their will. Nah, Hades did not exactly operate with the highest level of awareness. As the undertaker of the dead and darkness, Hades just took what he wanted, when he wanted it, and on that day, he wanted this young woman to be his new bride. Before Persephone could fathom what was happening, the ground below her cracked open, and Hades' underworld powers, and she was swiftly grabbed from her joy-filled task. Her basket full of innocent petals were tossed wildly into the wind and were abruptly scattered across the field in a mess of chaos. Persephone was quickly dragged down into the depths of Hades' lair through the rocky opening in the earth. She tumbled blindly and helplessly into his realm of darkness and dread. Then, just as quickly, the fissure in the land melded back together seamlessly. Silence prevailed. The earth was then forever changed as the young goddess of agriculture went missing. Persephone had vanished from the light. Well, dang it. Talk about a great morning that headed downhill fast. Poor Persephone had no idea her peaceful light would take such a drastic turn in an instant by an unknown jerk. Safe to say, none of us live in a simple Greek myth these days. Our minds are scattered with any number of rotating daily needs and responsibilities. We wake up to guzzle coffee and get out the door, then race through the day's priorities with one hand tapping on our phones and the other trying to compose emails or post on social media. By comparison, it would be amazing to enjoy even a few hours of peace wandering in a field of flowers. So, what is relevant to us today about this Greek myth? Well, it is the deeper symbolism of Persephone's tale that is highly pertinent in our modern existence. Life can be humming along as we know it, as predictable as a spinning wheel, and then unexpectedly, something comes from out of the blue and shakes us at our core. We are yanked from our normal existence because of a life-changing email, or a shocking phone call, or a swift development, an unexpected diagnosis, a hard decision, a life-changing event, an unraveling of what you had kept inside, tight and secure in a safe place that was now suddenly exposed and raw, or something as drastic as a loved one's death. Perhaps there is no immediate event that grabs you into its wrath. Instead, it could be a slow growing awareness that a part of you is suffocating or struggling or being challenged in increasingly uncomfortable ways. A small hurt has expanded into an unavoidable chronic ache. A deep knowingness can no longer be ignored. A small part of yourself has been screaming for your attention, and now you must truly listen to it as the yells escalate in volume. A truth you have suppressed must be released. Regardless of what it is, something has changed for you. Whatever it may be or however it shows up, one thing is inescapable. Something bigger than life as you know it is calling for your soul's attention. You are being pushed from one experience of your life into another unknown territory that is challenging, hard, or deeply emotional. Whether that change happens quickly or slowly, a new journey begins down into the depths of your own energy and inner world. So in the following chapters, you are going to meet 24 women who did just that. Through 4 soul themes, including spiritual awakenings and growth, owning her power, health, healing, and well-being, and soulmates and relationships, each woman is going to tell her story of being pulled into something greater and more powerful than she had ever known before. From divorce, professional setbacks, love connections, friendships ending, and questioning her life direction, to health challenges, losing her mom, becoming a mom, moving through inner pain, financial fears, and many more topics. All of them are shared as open, heart-based, and modern-day passages into greater soul growth. Each author shares her fears, emotional depths, doubts, pain, and struggles. She takes you into part of her experiences that have been held private and sacred. She opens up to express her fears and vulnerabilities. She leaves behind an old definition of self that has expired, the innocent part of her life before she had to journey into more of herself than ever before. Just as Persephone was dragged unexpectedly away from her bliss, you'll witness how each woman also had to move away from her normal life as something changed her at her core. She became her own modern heroine because she moved through a personal spiritual journey that expanded her definition of self. So this brings up the question, is there one singular type of heroine journey? Of course not. The stories are as varied and diverse as each person on the planet. Yet in this collection, each story has significant overlaps and intersections that intertwine into 8 characteristics. Number 1, it is solo. She does it by herself, for herself. Number 2, it is unknown. She moves outside of a comfort zone to find more of herself. Number 3, it tests her limits. She is pushed by external circumstances. Number 4, it is emotional. She experiences the full spectrum of her inner world. Number 5, it is transformational. She experiences a death and rebirth of herself. Number 6, it is risky. She is required to leap somehow, emotionally, spiritually, financially, mentally, psychologically. Number 7, it is comprehensive. She moves through a full process of unconsciousness to greater consciousness. And number 8, it is a permanent and significant change in self-identity. She becomes more of her soul self and cannot go back to who she was previously. So what makes a modern heroine different from a mythical one, besides those pesky underworld villains? Well, one answer is consciousness. She has the ability to see into herself on deeper levels, to understand her experience psychologically, to ask deeper, more probing questions about what she is learning as a soul in human form. More than ever, we have the ability in our modern age to expand our consciousness around the struggles, pain, and challenges in our lives. We have access to more teachers, resources, videos, guides, books, and teachings than ever before, and they can help us see where we are being encouraged to grow, trust, heal, and forgive in deeper ways. We can see how our power is ours to claim and activate on deeper levels. We can allow ourselves the room to feel deeply and emote truthfully, and then pull it all together, put on her big girl pants and sassy heels to march back out into the world with greater confidence and strength. No one else can make her a heroine except herself, and she is never a victim. The idea for this collection of stories came about through unexpected means, as many creative projects often do. Modern Heroine Soul Stories was birthed from the unexpected popularity of my second book, The Modern Heroine's Journey of Consciousness. Thousands upon thousands of women resonated with the journey of spiritual growth that I shared in that guidebook. As I listened to women on social media and email express how strongly they knew this path too, it became abundantly clear that something bigger could be created to connect with even more people. All of those contributing authors share their personal journey with the intention of opening, inviting, and connecting you to a bigger understanding of your own life. And heads up, We are real, everyday women who swear at times, get brutally honest, speak with ownership, and dance in the shadows of our own inner darkness. You are being invited into stories that are being fully expressed for the first time. We are going to be vulnerable and raw with you, and truthfully, we would have it no other way. Then another idea came through about this project. When stirring, impactful messages hit a popular chord, not only can we bring in more people to contribute their own experiences, but I believe we can also give more out into the world as well. So with that intention, all royalties from this book are being donated to a United States-based nonprofit organization called Women for Women International. Since 1993, Women for Women International has helped more than 462,000 marginalized women in 8 countries affected by war and conflict by offering support, tools, and access to life-changing skills. These resources help them move from crisis and poverty to stability and economic self-sufficiency. Women attend weekly or bi-weekly training classes in their communities to learn about business, finances, basic education, literacy, and understanding their civil rights as fundamental ways to improve herself, her family, and her community for long-term growth. We are 24 women from all over the globe sharing our personal stories to help more women improve their life stories in practical ways with the royalties from this book. Now, not to ruin the ending of Persephone's myth, but our girl did not stay with Hades in the underworld for the rest of her life. Her unexpected voyage into the dark only made her more powerful. Just as a modern heroine digs deeper into her own power, choices, and self to re-emerge as a more authentic and real version of her true self. More about how Persephone's adventure unfolded will be shared at the end of our 24 soul stories. We began with the mythical tale of Persephone to highlight how life can grab us and yank us deeper into our unconscious selves in order to return us back to the world as a more fully conscious person on the other side. When myth and modern are woven together, we find long-standing universal messages that can unite us through shared themes and invite us to open up more to one another. What if you weren't alone during one of your life's biggest turning points? What if one of your most private vulnerabilities was actually the best possible connection point with other women? What if another woman whom you have never met in person could relate to your most private experiences like a true sister? Perhaps you will meet her in one of these stories. We hope you find inspiration, strength, and perhaps even a little bit of yourself in this book. And we'll begin our journey together with the first theme of spiritual awakenings and growth, as 7 women share how they started to see and feel more of their connection to the universe, God, Source, Spirit, and accessed their inner gifts, talents, and healing intentions. So onwards we journey, out, down, and then back up to the light. And now I will share with you one of our contributing stories. It's called She Unmasks Her Inner Magic. It was written by Hydee Hall, and I, Molly McCord, will narrate this chapter for you on behalf of Hydee. I spent a great deal of time alone as a child. I had no brothers or sisters growing up, and I was a latchkey kid with 2 parents who worked very long hours. Yet I always felt I had something around me. I knew I was not alone, and it was this feeling that gave me the comfort and love that I needed throughout my life to survive. I was born depressed, hungry for joy, and looking for a way not to drown in pain. During especially difficult times, I would go outside, look at the trees, and feel their presence in my heart. Like magic, I would feel the company of something, letting me know it was okay and I was not alone. It also helped immensely to have a pet dog. Her devoted presence soothed me as she listened to my words and my silence. She was not only my best friend, but the only one in my life who gave me unconditional love. Throughout my teens, 20s, and 30s, I learned that it was far easier to hide my depression by wearing a mask and playing a part. My depression often felt like a can of paint above my head, with the paint in slow motion spilling all over me. I could then protect myself and choose to be anybody I needed to be. I could completely detach myself and be outside myself, essentially watching myself play the part I had strategically chosen for that day. This was my coping mechanism, my safe way to participate in life. Being a typical Virgo, I excelled at taking on the characteristics of each of my masks. They not only gave me the ability to be creative and be anyone I wanted to be, but more importantly, hide and protect the real me. It was finally in my 40s that I hit a desperate moment of exhaustion. I yelled out that I could no longer continue my life the way it was. At that moment, I surrendered. I experienced a gut-wrenching cry that came from a place I had no idea existed. I was finally ready to give up the way I was living. I needed help. I will never forget the date. On April 1st, 2008, a spirit on site, or what I like to call an SOS, came through for me for the first time. The SOS had a sense of humor, proven by choosing to appear on April Fool's Day. It was a turning point in my life that forced me to look at a number of things within myself, while an army of spiritual gurus made their presence known each step of the way. All of a sudden, there were messages and directions along the way, so many coincidences, as people were placed right in front of me to teach me and guide me forward. The first priority at hand was shedding the fear that had been ingrained in me from the time I was created in my mother's womb. I had no idea that in shedding that fear, it would be the inception of immense gratitude. How was it possible that I had lived a life for so long in fear? As I shed the layers and layers of fear, living became more vibrant. I was seeing things as if it were for the first time, and everything was brighter. This incredible pivotal point in my 40s was truly an amazing gift from the universe. I also felt a huge responsibility in receiving this gift and proceeded carefully, as I inherently knew at some point I would need to share my story and be of service to other beautiful souls. That little girl, who hardly ever spoke or expressed any emotions, was coming out at the midpoint of her life here on earth, and she was going to be authentic for the first time ever. Next came forgiveness. I had to learn to forgive myself for wearing all those masks and hiding that little girl. Getting in touch with my inner child was an amazing emotional experience, kind of like meeting an interesting stranger who seems very familiar. At one point on my spiritual journey, I felt like I gave birth to her. I had a very vivid dream, and rarely do I remember my dreams, where on this particular night I saw myself in hard labor, giving birth to this lovely, sweet, innocent spirit. As with my 3 sons, I immediately fell in love with this baby the moment I saw her. She was exquisitely beautiful, and I embraced her with every fiber of my being. I knew precisely upon giving birth to her that I would love myself unconditionally and never, ever again focus on my flaws. At last, compassion flowed freely from my inner core to my inner child. I saw her big smile for the first time in my mind. I saw her warm brown eyes and how bright and beautiful they were. Her messy hair was soft to the touch, and I marveled at the lively curls that went in all different directions. All the hateful words that she had heard as a child meant nothing anymore. I really felt her for the first time ever, and she was finally being fed love. I was overcome with intense affection for her. She was so charming, so lively and spirited. I embraced her, really hugged her, and kissed her like no one had ever done when I was little. The connection was intense and purely magical. Life dramatically changed. I was then on an adventure to intimately know that little girl. There were so many layers to this knowing, and the process had its moments where I briefly questioned myself, but there's a reason for every step. I have learned to trust. I trust myself. I trust the universe. I trust my SOS team. I am grateful, blessed, and in awe of taking the chance at this stage of my life to have the courage to make a difference in my future. There is no going back to the way I lived before, as I have sipped, tasted, and consumed this magical knowingness. I cherish every gift, every revelation, every relationship, and every coincidence that shows up. Sometimes it takes a leap of faith to take that first baby step. And then 2 big steps back come next. But trust the pace. Everything gets revealed at precisely the moment it should. I devote time and energy every day to my spirituality. Some days it is just a couple of minutes where it is as simple as a prayer of gratitude. Other days I give myself several hours. I find my connections to spirit just by being mindful and observant in everything I do, whether it's gardening or washing the dishes. I have days where I have seek haven in my special goddess room, and it is there where I read, reflect, and cherish who I am, what my soul is, and my deep connection to Source. Looking back on it all, uncovering my inner magic could not have happened without the collapse of the person wearing the mask. It is in that heart-wrenching pain of surrendering where my life prepared me for the birth of that little girl to emerge and be one with me. She is ingrained in every fiber of my being and reminds me that I'm always connected to Spirit. This magical connection at times overwhelms me with tears of intense bliss and immense joy. It is in this magic where there is unlimited forgiveness, compassion, authenticity, courage, love, and trust. And that is Hydee Hall's contribution to our book. And I hope that her insights help give you the courage to remove any masks that have been suppressing your own inner magic. I'll be back to share another chapter from this book with you soon. In the meantime, I wish you a beautiful journey of healing, and I wish you a beautiful ongoing connection to your own spiritual self. I'll see you soon.